welcome back to the Corey Shepherd Podcast. Welcome back to the Corey Shepherd Podcast. This is episode 94. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome if this is your first time here. Let's not get straight into it, because this, surprisingly, is a real long week. When I watch the amount of things we have to talk about. This turned out to be one of the longer weeks. Longer week, but shorter podcast. I'm going to get through these topics real fast. We have plenty to talk about here. Eh? So, what happened this week? First and foremost, I want to start by saying, rest in peace to the great Blaxx once again. And the funeral for Blaxx was last week. I think it was a great... If you get a chance to take it in now, I want to tell you something. What happened home by me here, because I get a call. I was in work. I deliberately didn't watch the funeral procession and all that, because I find like every day that passed, that you realize Blaxx passed, it get a little more sad. Only if it's so. If you're a soca lover or a lover of Blaxx or Roy Cape and the All Stars or his journey, I didn't even know he used to sing in Blue Ventures. It's the first time I heard that over the course of this week. It gets a little sadder every day when you realize what we're losing in Blaxx. Because I think one of the things that we talk a lot about his hits, his style, his positivity, his bringing in young artists, bringing in young writers, doing so much for the art form. But I think one of the things that we didn't talk about a lot is how we lost one of the last remaining genuine frontline singers in our band. You know what I mean? When the frontline singer in the band meant something. It wasn't just about their songs or their art, or sometimes they didn't have the biggest songs, but they had the ability to keep a party going, whether they opening the fete or they closing the fete or they falling anywhere in between. And that's what Blaxx, was, you know what I mean? And they have a few more, with due respect to Sean Winchester, Destra, they have a few more people who are there, Olatunji, some of them still there, Eddie Charles, where they're still the lead and frontline singers, but Blaxx hold that position more. And you hear him talk about it in interviews over the course of this week, when you look back at the old interviews and stuff, where he's saying, he was sick and he really should have rest and stuff, but he's the front man in the band, and if he ain't come out, the band don't eat. And his dedication to that band format in soca last till 2022, when that was already fading away. Most of the bigger artists who was frontline singers in our band, some of them are just called Marshall. Marshall have his own band, different to having your own band, right? But they walk away from that band type setting and focus on their solo career, and the band become a backing band. It wasn't really a band where the band was put to the forefront. So if you remember the days of fetting, at my age, we would be going to see Blue Ventures and Traffic and Atlantic and what the white boy band name again? Second Image and all these people, you know what I mean? We used to go out to see them. And you would have seen, not that we didn't care about the frontline singer, because you're going to see the frontline singer, but the band was the draw. When you see an invitation for a fete, or you see a billboard go up for Fire, Wasser, Brass, Customs, them types of fetes, the bands was what used to be advertised. Now you don't really advertise the band, Marshall and Big and the HD. Well, I don't even know if you could call that band. Or let me use Bungie and Fayan as an example with the Asylum band. Now the draw is Bungie and Fayan and the Asylum band small. It used to be Atlantic featuring Steve Seeley and who let the dogs out man name again? Him. You know what I mean? He used to Ansem Douglas. He used to see the frontline singer small and the band big. And Blaxx, to me, representing one of the last artists. I hope I ain't forgetting nobody or leaving nobody out. But one of the last artists who stick with that band format throughout. So a proper rest in peace again to the great Blaxx boy. So, funeral procession. The funeral was big, of course. Blaxx, they timed it well because make sure everybody could come back out. And I think the public, as well as all the artists, came out and they saw a lot of that young generation who, to me, he had supported. He was seeing it, even though I wouldn't have known a lot of the stories that was happening behind the scenes with Blaxx giving people encouragement and being there for them. What I always used to take note of is when these youths had started doing their own shows, the Second Sunday, Voice and Concert, Preedy, College Boy Jesse, all them had their own shows, right? Pan Man, Junior Regrello. Did I say Junior this time or Joshua? Joshua. You find that Blaxx would be somebody who always in the mix in those things. Among some others, among some other veterans, I would say, they always in the mix among the youths. And you don't, in them things, you don't know what's the financial arrangement. I don't know none of the backstory. But what I do know is you will always seeing Blaxx in the mix in them things. And as a senior veteran, a legend, he going in those shows and comfortably opening for some of the younger youths who come out and doing their thing. So it's not like Blaxx going there griping. They have, and I'm putting it out there that they have certain artists, or I want to say many artists, who not doing that because of their star and what they represent, you know what I mean? And their level of shine and the level they reach and so on. They're not going in those shows to open for pretty. I had 30, 40 hits over the years. And our big hits this year. You want me going to open for pretty who are 6 hits over the you know what I mean? They're not doing it. And Blaxx been a part of that since them times. So you saw the love for him when that funeral started in the Savannah. And I mean, they had some emotional moments. Some of his management team. I mean, that it was emotional. But apparently none more emotional than in my own household, where I get a call while I was working. And when I call, as a matter of fact, I call home. I just, when you're in work, you have to do the check-in. So when I do the check-in, I hear people's voice singing like a cracking and they crying, I say, oh God, what I do? I say, what I do? I start to make up excuse for thing I ain't do. Next time I say, yeah, but watching this Blaxx thing, it's so sad. I just cried the whole day watching. I say, but what's going on with you? She's in a whole shambles in this house. Now, I'm putting it out there that the reason I'm bringing up this and talking about a funeral in the beginning of our episode is not the most fun, entertaining, and funny way to start a podcast. But the reason I put it up front is because I find like we have to take examples like these and make sure that we treat people good in life and not wait till they pass to treat them good. Sometimes you have to take the opportunity to tell people you love them and you appreciate the work that they're doing and listen, boy, you see this? This is how this make me feel. You sing this song. Sometimes you pass an artist on the street. You just passing like a full bus. You go and tell the artist, boy, you see when you sing Hulk, it get me through a piece of depression. You know what I mean? That me. Or you see when you sing No Girl Do I Know Owner, that a cooler fat song. You know what I mean? Thanks for doing that and thing. And that little appreciation goes so far. And I talk about me and you. I ain't talking about the authorities, although I have something to talk about the authorities in this episode. But not the NCCs, not the government, not the other artists for recognition. I'm talking about we as fans. Because when I hear the amount of crying I hear going on here, I start to ask myself, but did I ever hear a Blaxx play in this house ever? I don't remember Stacey playing no Blaxx. No, I don't whisper because she home. I don't remember she playing no Blaxx. No time. But when Blaxx dead, it's real Blaxx playing this house. She's not to play Blaxx heavy. And I just saying that we take the time to show people their appreciation and give them the flowers while they're alive and well, you know what I mean? While they're here to receive it. And I do feel in a sense as though Blaxx went out knowing how people feel about him, knowing the love, knowing the appreciation people have for him. I keep going back to the image of him in Voice concert this year in the Savannah. Biggest sellout show for the season. And just being on stage and it seemed like they say it was a surprise. Voice didn't know he was coming, and the reverence that both of them have for each other. A father and son love. They have that, and they stand up there watching each other for a good while. And boys, listen, if we being honest, we was watching Blaxx on them stages this kind of and knowing he can make. And I remember seeing him with Pretty, and Pretty saying, "Listen, let me get him the flowers while they're here." And Blaxx get that opportunity to get his love from the industry and from the fans and get a legendary status and that word legend attached to his name. And I feel like a big part of it, unfortunately, was because of how he had fallen sick the other day. When he fell sick a couple of years ago, I think we start to appreciate what Blaxx meant to us. Because to be honest with you, I don't know if this is just me, but I never really hear nobody say Blaxx is a legend and Blaxx so loved and them things before he falls sick. I could be wrong about that. But I don't know that he was discussed as a legend. I don't know. I may be wrong. But because he falls sick, as unfortunate as it is, I think he gets to see that love from everybody. Everybody was there talking about how great he is and how much he contributes to the culture and all the hits he had over the years and what he meant in the band culture and all that. So, salute to Blaxx. Let's give people their flowers while they're here, right? We have plenty of artists here still who's living legends, who we taking an opportunity to make a joke of every single chance we get. Keep that in mind. That every chance we get, we're trying to make a joke out of them and make them into a meme and make them into... Not that we must now be fun. But while we having fun and thing, we must let them know, hey, Sean Winchester is a legend. You understand? You win out some road march, you win out something. This era meant this to us because show no just at that era, but we taking opportunities to make fun of people like him all the time. So I just wanted to start with that, right? It's one of them episodes again, right? Because one of the main stories I see coming out of the news this week was this situation where this father, beat this little girl boy. What do you think about that boy? I'm watching this story and I want to start by saying, right, that I always come here and talk about the fact that I don't believe in jail. You see, locking people up, I think it's something that we will live to regret. We go eventually find a better way to, what you want to call it, punish or rehabilitate, or a combination of the two things. Rehabilitate is a word. We will eventually find a better way to do those two things, to punish you and put you through rehab. So, and we will look back at the times where we used to lock people in a 6x6 cell, or put a 20x20 cell, but put 40 people inside there with a bucket and all this kind of thing. We will eventually look back at this, and it will go down as one of the greatest crimes allowed by humanity. You see how we look back at slavery now and say it shouldn't be allowed and a travesty, and the prince had to come and apologize and all them kind of things. At some point, we will go back and look at this and say, boy, this might not be the right thing to do. Because I was hearing somebody talking about the Constitution of the US the other day, and basically saying that in the abolition of slavery, in the document that would abolish slavery, it referred to jail as one of the examples of legitimate reasons for people to still become enslaved. When you look at the jail in the States, for instance, you're looking at a situation where a man could be locked up, be made to do community work for basically free. I guess he had a room on board. I see something the other day too saying that for every prisoner, it's $70-something thousand a year, they say, it takes to maintain a prisoner in a prison. And remember that these prisons in the States is private business, right? So think about that. Somebody making any money off of that. But when we look back at this idea of people being locked up, and you lock up somebody for life and you could never come back out, and that's not right. And I'm saying that particularly in the context of this soldier. They say somebody in the defense force, right? Now, I hope I'm talking too loose, because nowhere, none of the articles so far listed this person as the child father, right? That is my assumption. Because they keep saying a close male relative of the child. And the mother carried the child to beat. The mother carried the child to get licks. Because it's like young girl growing up. Young girl growing up kind of problems for those of us who have daughters. Or those of you all who have daughters. If you have a daughter who started to reach teenage years, what it's like. Like our partner was telling me about his daughter. And the whole thing with boys and the kind of boy that coming home. And I started to remind people, listen, remember the kind of boy you was. When I go by girls, long time as a teenager. My pants was real big. I have on a size 38. I'm still trying to maintain a kind of cool finish because I can't go all the way nerd in front of the girl father or the girl parents when I had to go and meet them, because I'm still trying to impress this girl and I'm still conscious of my own image and thing. How I coming back on the block if I nerd out and go and put on shirt and tie to go by this girl? I put on my Guess jeans and thing like normal and going baggy, a big Guess jersey, a Kangol on my head. Is like, why? When them people see me, they must say, oh my God, I try my best with this girl and look what she bring home. And in this digital era, it's getting even worse. Because I see Stacey show me a video the other day with a young, same thing, young kind of teenage-ish girl. And boy, listen, it's so sad because this girl ran away from home basically. And when she ran away, she take her little sister. So let me assume the girl is an older teenager, right? Somewhere 14, 15, 16. Teenagers. 14 is older teenager. She's a teenage girl. From 4, from 5, them kind of age. And she take the little sister now who must be 10, 11 or whatever the age is, boy. And she gone for 3, 4 days. When she come back home, boy, the mother beating the child with a Bible. With a New Testament, apparently. I don't know if this is like beat the God into you, because that's work well when you beat God into people, you know what I mean? And listen, it's a sad video to see. I don't like to see them kind of thing, because and this story is a combination of all them things. So I started by saying this guy who is saying is a member of the defense force. Unfortunately, this man done locked up. He gonna go to trial. If he found guilty, he gonna go to jail for this. But I'm saying that what he would have gone through. Let me assume this is his child father, or as they say, a close male relative. You see the torture. He done in jail already, you know. If you set that man free, he in jail, you know, he locked up in his own mind because the punishment that he facing, having gone through what he went through there, put that child where he went through, and then that child ended up dead. Worse than any lockup it have. I always go back to this story with this guy, a grandfather, who he went to drop the child to school, forget to drop the child in the daycare. He ended up going to work, find out he get a promotion or some kind of back pay or something, went in a next car with some people, went on Lime and thing. And sad to say, the little child was staying in the heat and the child died. They lock up that man. No, them things can't be right, you know. Because what you think about it, right? This is like me and my father dropped Zachary somewhere and something happened to him. How I go lost my son and my father in the same sentence? Now I had to visit my father in jail. Listen, if that happened, that will be one of the hardest things any family could go through. And I would want that if that happened in my family, God forbid, that my family could stay together and get closer because of that. I don't let my father know, boy, me don't have nothing. We still my father and son. I love you still. We going down. This happened, but it's all a we going down. We gonna make this better. We're gonna live with life. No, instead of that, I had to go and visit you in jail now. Boy, listen, that not right. You done in jail already when you do something like this. But for those of you who don't know this story, driven by a desire to, this is from Sasha Wilson from The Guardian, right? Driven by a desire to protect 15-year-old Aaliyah Alexander from going down the wrong path, a close male relative whose corporal punishment led to her death is now in police custody. So, you know, it's like corporal punishment turned into capital punishment. But Alexander, a student of Coover West Secondary School, was taken by her mother to a male relative's house at Rig Road, Claxton Bay on Tuesday to be disciplined. The relative is a corporal with the TNT Defense Force. In an interview with reporters at the relative's house in Chagonas yesterday, Alexander's mother, Vanessa Augustine, who is 6 months pregnant, oh my God, who is 6 months pregnant, could not stop crying. The mother said she usually disciplined Alexander and her 12-year-old sister, but the male relative stepped in because she was not listening, and they both were very disturbed by Alexander's behavior. She said the relative had never before beat her children. Okay, maybe it's not the father. All right, once going back to the article, once he disciplined Aaliyah and he pinched her and that hurts him so much. He said, Vanessa, I love them girls so much. I can't see myself abusing them in no way. I can't beat my girls. It's my girls, father. I love them so much. These were his exact words. So I used to have to do the disciplining, and if I do it, he would be like, you don't find he was a little too hard on them? So, boy, listen, it's sad. This woman done defending this man already. It don't happen. Nothing that we do. No matter what you do, you're not going to bring back this little child to life. Sad to say. So, punishing them on top of that, because the idea behind jail is supposed to be rehabilitation, but we're going to how about have rehabilitation in this equation here when he go in for this kind of thing? Anyway. She said Alexander grew up in church, but she was being influenced to do the wrong thing. You ever notice? Yeah, I mean to laugh. But you ever notice all parents say the child was getting influenced to do something? Parents is a hell of a thing. You know? Parents is never say, them child was influencing people to do the wrong. All right, okay. Teenage problem with boyfriend. We tried talking to her not to shame herself because there are so many young girls who go out there and they will get pregnant. They will get themselves too much involved in social media with themselves half naked and stuff. And we was just warning her, please don't embarrass yourself. Keep yourself up high because she's a Christian girl. Augustine arrived at the male relative's house after 2 p.m. He wanted to be alone with Alexander, so she went to visit another relative So the mother went to visit another relative while she left the child to get disciplined. When Augustine returned to the house, she was speaking to him outside and he told her he would ban Alexander from the phone and monitor her movements. He said, let me call her because she's inside. I have to sit down inside. I let her speak to your mommy by herself. I don't know what I mean. Shortly after he went inside, she said, he called out my name hard. Vanessa, something wrong. Come. I say, what could be wrong? What happened? She ran inside and dropped to her knees when she saw her daughter on the ground vomited. So, hey, listen, this story is tragic and it's sad. So, the first time the story came out, the headline was that a child was beaten by the parents and fall down some steps and die. Later on, you get to find out it only have 4 steps. So let me tell you what's my belief. I personally don't believe there's the first time this man beat. The first time you beat a child, I don't know if something like this happening. Oh, you beating a child and to beat somebody and they die like that, even if they fall down, so that child get bad licks. And I want to say that we as Caribbean people, this is not just a Trinidadian thing. You hear people use the term spare the rod and spoil the child to defend these kind of things. And I don't believe in that at all. No. Let me use my example of my son. Because he's a good boy, as all parents would say. And anything he do bad, I'm going to say he influenced by somebody else, right? Just like everybody else. And as a parent, it's a hard thing. Because my goal as a parent is to make sure that he could live a happy and fruitful life in my absence. I always tell myself that as a parent. Because I saw somebody, this going around on TikTok sometimes, and I find it so true. And like a father telling a child, listen, I can't promise you I will love you for the rest of your life. But I can tell you that I will love you for the rest of mine. And that's true because I don't know how long I have here again. I don't know how long I will be here. And I don't know how long again he here neither, but we live as if we are going to, like if our children are going to outlive us, which is usually the normal situation. Outside of any abnormal circumstance, typically children burying their parents, right? So I live in my life to try to make sure that I set him up in a way that he could succeed and be happy in my absence. And by that I mean, it have things I have to put in a financial standing for that to happen. But more importantly, what I need to put is a certain amount of values. I need to build him up, educate him, let him get self-aware, let him get self-conscious, let him get self-assured. So that you ain't have to worry about nothing. You're working towards your own thing, you're achieving your goals, you're accomplishing anything you want in life. And a part of that is discipline. There's no escaping. So spare the rod and spoil the child is something that I believe in because you have to discipline people. Think of it this way. I have to discipline myself, right? Because about 35 episodes ago, I said, boy, you're going to exercise and lose some weight. I ain't do one damn thing since I say that. So discipline is something that you're not going to achieve your goals without. You know what I mean? They say discipline is so much more important than motivation. I find it to be true. I use an exercise as the example again because sometimes, like, beginning of the year, when you set these resolutions, you could have a high level of motivation because the atmosphere around you is a positive one and everybody think and it's Happy New Year and thing blowing out and all them kind of thing, right? And you're feeling like you could go for it. The unfortunate reality is that the motivation is disappear eventually. True or not true? Whatever you're motivated behind or the energy you feel when you're motivated behind someone, that good feeling, you buy some gym clothes, you pay for the membership, you feeling up. Listen, at some point in time, you're going to hate going in that gym. You're going to hate that instructor. You're going to hate that workout video you're watching on YouTube. You're not going to want to do it. And it's only discipline that could get you past that point. And consistency too. Because you see the consistency now, I read a book called The Power of Habit. It's one of the best books I ever read, by Charles Duhigg. And he was talking about what habits do. And you know what struck me in the book? It used to happen to me a lot. He had said that sometimes on a weekend, you're driving to go somewhere else, but you end up driving, and by the time you think you realize you're in front of work. That happened to me at time going. I can't remember where I was going, but I end up driving all the way up to where I used to park to go to work on Park Street. And there's a Saturday morning, and then I was like, wait, no, where I end up here? And of course, that gripped me from then because I want to understand why my brain doing that. And it's just basically habits. When you go into the loop of habits, what you call a habit loop, you no longer have to think about it. You don't need motivation. You don't need discipline. You don't need any of them things. You just tend to find that you end up doing that almost subconsciously. So to me, it's about discipline and consistency. So if it's so much work I had to be doing to discipline myself for me to get better, all when Monday come and I feel to record this listen, I feel like, especially when it's weeks like these, I like a Will and Jada. Anytime you give me a little bit of kicks to talk about, my motivation is be high to come and do this podcast. When I watch back my topics and I see these kind of things, me want to do it. But again, I'm looking for consistency. I'm looking for discipline. So I had to try to instill that in my child now. I think one of the mistakes we make as Caribbean parents, and not just, it's just culturally in the Caribbean is that we equate discipline with licks. We see physical discipline as almost the only way that we could do it. I think showing your children love is a form of discipline. And I'm moving away from this situation with this father and this daughter, right? Because that it's sensitive and I don't want to talk about him in any negative way, or the mother or the child or anybody. I hope that we could find it in our hearts to forgive this man and the society. And I'm talking about the society from us as individuals and in the judicial system. I hope we could find a way to forgive him, but more importantly, I hope this man could find a way to forgive himself, because that is not a nice situation. This woman making her next baby, she have a younger child who would have surely been close to her sister and so on. And when you're reading about these things, a 15-year-old girl half naked on social media getting into thing with boys, that's not so abnormal. And some of the things that you see in the article that we deal with so much is things like shame. Sometimes when you hear people say, don't go and shame yourself. I strongly believe that what you're saying is don't go and shame your parents, don't go and shame your family. And I understand the sentiment, because I want to make sure, you see, when Zachary have a level of freedom home here, that don't work very well for him when we go out, because that is a little embarrassing child. And let me tell you something. Anytime you are children, you prepare for embarrassment. Anybody who are children can tell you this. If you don't know children before, you don't understand what embarrassment is yet. Children are going to embarrass you. They're going to do things and say things. And some of the things that they say and do, I who didn't have children used to always say, children is do what they see their parents do. And I live to realize that is not true. These little children have their own personality, their own style, their own quirks. And when you see they go out in public now, listen, all hell could break loose. And it could be very, very embarrassing. But I just try to check myself when I feeling embarrassed and not make it a cycle. I rather talk to Zachary and say, listen, and this always happen home here too, because he have a level of freedom. I talk to him like an adult. I guess he growing up in a house with adults too. He don't have any other children around him. So he a little, let me say advanced for the sake of the mother, right? But between me and you, he overexposed. He overexposed as a young child, right? So he's asked questions. But anything that man asks me, I'm going to try to explain it to him as if an adult explain it. And I'm going to break down the parts where I feel his little child mind can't understand or too naive to understand. And I'm going to tell him. And if it's too hard, I'm going to say, ask your mother. You know what I mean? I can't get into certain things with him. But when I tell him those things, I also tell him, I was like, brother, that is home talk, eh? Don't go and say that to nobody when you're going and play on the swing and thing, and you go and tell nobody child that, and then these parents coming to take you away from me and put me in child, you're going in child services or whatsoever. And it's really my own hang-ups, because I conscious of it and I don't want the opinion about how I raising him to go out there and so on. You know what I mean? It's my shame, my embarrassment, and you will get shame, you will get embarrassed. I think that part of us as parents, and I talk to Stacey about this all the time, is that we feel like if as they get older, they should get wiser. It's a reasonable assumption, and I do think that it happens. But I just think that, listen, when you have a toddler, right? I don't know if I could go through that toddler stage again. You see, toddlers have a level of energy that is unsurpassed. And with that level of energy, the embarrassment heightened now, because you can't control them really. You know what I mean? And this is where the licks thing is coming in, because sometimes it's only a bellows. You know what I mean? If your skin burn, you're going to settle down. But the talking, they don't take talking the same way as they start to get older, they take the talking. But what I feel is that, and what frustrates us sometimes as parents, is that as they get older, the embarrassment is change. It's still embarrassing, but it's just change. And listen, embarrassment is such a personal thing, because, I mean, that had more to do with me than with Zachary. And I remind myself that all the time. But when you get to 14, 15 now, you're on boys, you're on social media, you're cussing, you're experimenting with things. When you're 16, you can have a drink, you try to smoke. These things not new to this generation. I think what we struggling with as parents a little bit is the fact that a lot of the things that we could do privately, they doing publicly. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just what it is, you know what I mean? So we had a thing on our Playboy home. You get a hand in our Playboy, you carry that to school. That's a big scene. That was the same 15 years old we was doing those things, and probably even younger. So in this particular situation, I just feel for the family as a whole, and I pray, and we should all pray and hope for that they could find peace in this situation in some way. Because while the outcome was bad, I think the intention was good. But I wanna generalize the conversation to corporal punishment. And just get a sense for how people feel about that. You know what I mean? How you feel about corporal punishment and the way we approach it as Caribbean people. Spare the rod and spoil the child. You know what I mean? And a lot of people in our generation, I saw it come up a lot on Facebook too, where we saying that people say, I get licks and look how I turn out. I want to say that in our time, we get licks and we turn out, I don't know if we turn out good. That's number one. I don't know if we turn out so okay now, because if you look in the recesses of people's lives, people dealing with all kind of different problems, and psychiatrist money go spend. That psychiatrist could come in the form of good Neola and people like that who you could go and talk to, you know what I mean? Or it could come in the form of drugs, it could come in the form of alcohol, it could come in the form of a woman, in the form of a man, or in the form of continuing a cycle of abuse of children. Whatever that therapy is, you need an outlet. So when people say we get licks and we turn out all right, I want to say we turn out all right in spite of the fact that we get all our licks. And the thing about it is this. This is where it comes down to discipline for me. And you remember when they move corporal punishment from schools? I'm fully in support of that. I get too much of licks in school. Well, you remember school licks? In school, in Newtown boys, they used to beat with a chicken whip. You know, it's a chick. I don't know why a chicken whip was invented. What that was? That dust, the thing to dust and thing? Like it had feathers. And let me tell you something, where this thing get bad. Teachers used to shave off the feathers because in the middle of it is a little cane. I guess that's the handle. So, hey, wait, I have something like it here. 1 second. If you're on YouTube, right? Sorry for the people who's only listening on audio, right? But if you're on YouTube, the timestamps is the same, right? So wherever timestamp this is, you go find it. This thing, this thing dusty boy. This little thing used to be actual chicken feathers. I holding up a duster. So the little duster have a cane running through it. So that's where you're holding like the handle to thing, right? And it had some teachers, like Mr. Sherry in particular, Miss Gomez, love you and everything, you know what I mean? But they used to shave down the feathers now so they could get more of the handle exposed. And they hold in the end with the feathers, and that is the whip that they use to beat people children. That's a form of insanity to me, you know, because you had to go home. You had to go and buy that, and all of them like they had the same chicken whip. I wonder if the ministry used to distribute them thing. All them are the same thing, and they shave off the feathers. So, shave that down. Wrap it up with some masking tape now. Because they didn't want it break, you know. They would want to beat you and they didn't want it break at all. That's why they used to go over whip, you know, because go over wood hard to break. And then they thing now, and they beat you with that. I remember Miss Gomez used to pull your pants. Your little short pants in primary school done so thin and tight already. They used to grab it on the side and they pull it so it tight like on your skin. And whip your behind with that thing when you giving trouble in school. Who else used to beat so at school, boy? Mr. DePiver. Mr. Sherry. Well, and I hear, if you ever went to Newtown, any school you went, tell me if you never had a rumor like this. They used to say Mr. Sherry Troughboy over the banister. Me know true. Miss Holder, Licks, and Miss Joseph. Miss Joseph had one of them big ruler, thick. I don't know what they make them rule out. It must be bullets. It had to be hollow point bullets, because that one is our thick ruler with the little it had a little metal piece, so you could draw a straight line with the ruler. And sometimes when she beats it, man, that metal piece coming out. You hit a human. You hitting a small human being. This not right. Listen, I don't know no other animal in the animal kingdom who's beat and whip the children like that. But I mean, we more intelligent than the rest of the species, right? So we figure out a way how to discipline people. So I was all for removal of corporal punishment. I think particularly in secondary school, where you're starting to get a little older now. Imagine you in Form 5, you 15, 16 years old. That man coming driving to school in Form 6. And a dean couldn't tear you. A dean could have hit you, give you strokes on your hand. And then the way to regulate that at one point in time was to say, okay, you can't hit them anywhere but on their hand and on the bottom. It's like somebody thinking this through and figuring out that this is a good way. So I was all for removal of corporal punishment. And a lot of people at the time, I think it was late 90s under Pandey, we had stopped the corporal punishment. Corporal punishment meaning just beating people in schools, right? And a big part of the discussion was that when you remove that, we will see generations of children who go on wild and they are not. And what we see now is people justified that. Because when you remove corporal punishment, the school age then would have been from 5 to 18. School age is from 5 to 18. So if you look at 10 years down the road and you let the level of crime go on, and that's because we stopped the beating in the school, I don't believe that one. There's nonsense, garbage. Nobody can prove that barbershop talk. I think that because we have equated discipline with licks for so long in the Caribbean, when we remove the hitting of people, I think we remove the disciplining of people. And that's where I think the problem lies. We're not disciplining young people in the same way that we used to when we eliminate licks. And now you have to get a little more creative. You have to get a little more creative with how you love them, how you encourage them, how you motivate them. So imagine in the working world, we talk about, they used to have a thing about Tier X and Tier Y employee. It's a one, I think Tier X, where you just have a whip over him and you force them to work. And every HR or motivation theory you ever hear will tell you about intrinsic reward and intermittent reinforcement and ways to encourage people to do the right thing rather than punishing them for doing the wrong thing. One of these things our companies do is mystery shopping. And a lot of times I sit down in meetings with people and in mystery shopping, they say, well, all right, you send a shopper in the store, and if they don't give you the change in their hand, we go write them a warning letter. It's like, hey, listen, hold on. How about we put a reward system in place? The best companies usually do it. Most of the companies that work for us usually do it. They put a mystery shopping system in place with a reward-based incentive or incentive-based reward. Whatever was the right way to say that. So when I go in the store and a person do all the right things, I could give them something once. I had 2 movie song tickets, I have flowers in the car, they have chocolates, they have whatever it might be. Or they get recognition by their branch or whatsoever the thing is. So in adult world, we understand where focusing on what is the right thing to do tends to get better rewards in the workplace. But somehow in the school system, which is designed to help you reach the workplace successfully, if I'm not mistaken, it's preparing you for the working world. The education is towards making you a successfully earning adult and contributor to society. Somehow we feel that we could put a punitive system in place all the way from 1 year old to 18 years old, right? Put a system where anything you do wrong, you could get licks. And then at 18, when you're going to university, all of a sudden they let you go and they say, all right, you're on your own. You have to find your motivation to do this thing when there's nobody else to beat you. It's such a strange thing. So I just feel like if somehow discipline went out the door when we banned licks and the discipline, because think of me and my weight loss journey. One of the first things, there's a girl who I follow on Instagram. I should talk about her page because I find her page to be real. I like the way she's put her thing. Not that I'm any fitter than I was before following her page. But I want to make sure I do right. I'm terrible at this, I think it's Fit Davy. Fit something Davi. A woman I know her from Long Circular Mall when she used to she trains in Long Circular Mall or used to train while I was there. And every day she's put up these little TikTok or these posts talking about myths of dieting and the exercise thing. And I find it so simple because she's trying to say, listen, the other day she talked about a meal prep. And when them people say meal prep, I expect to see broccoli and the whitest chicken ever created, and they call that a meal and they do it, and then I realize like I gotta stay with a little extra pounds. But the meal prep for her was putting some peanut butter on 2 Oreos. I was like, okay, what's going on here? Because this is my kind of meal prep, all about 11, 12 in the night. This is my kind of meal. And then I realized she said, listen, trying to ban yourself from eating fun stuff going to derail your dieting thing. So she said this is something that she's have every now and again or this or that, and that's prevents her from eating a whole pack. Now, when I open Oreos, it's done. I just say it. In this house, when you open Oreos, and Stacey don't eat sweet things, so it's a fight between me and Zachary to get all the sweet things have in the house. But I just liked her approach because what she's showing you is a reward-based system, and maybe that she have this reward-based system in place for why she doing better. Helping her way faster along her fitness journey than a man like me who have a punitive system, because when I decide to lose weight, I don't eat none. forever. I just do eat nothing until, like, I try the, I was telling earlier, I think I tried the intermittent reinforcement. No, I say intermittent fasting. You see, when you have too much topics, what is happening? I tried intermittent fasting for a while, and it is work. It's work, but the discipline to stay with intermittent fasting for a very long time, real hard. And also, I think when you do it for so long, because you're feeling so deprived, what's that happening to me is that it's almost like I was not eating from 8 p.m. to midday the next day. But the problem started to be now when I reach 12 the next day, is a lot of hamburgers is going to be consumed between 12 and 8 because I lost the discipline, or I couldn't follow through on eating healthy for such a long period of time. I eventually give up. So I just using her example of positive reward and intermittent reinforcement. Intermittent reinforcement is just when you're somebody doing the right thing. You every now and again you give them a reward, and the reward could be as simple as a compliment. I look at Zachary when I tell him, "Boy, I'm so proud of you doing so much better than I was doing in school." He's be happy about that. Like, I try to be honest with him too. Like, I don't like when he tell me that, because just this weekend here we have company, and this man come and he say, "Daddy, right? You were the class clown in school." I was like, Jesus Christ, so what happened? So you ought to be putting me on this spot. So, but I swallow my pride and I say, yeah, I was a class clown all the way through, still a class clown. You know what I mean? But using little positive reinforcement. I try to put a system in place where, and listen, I'm not saying any of these things because I anywhere near perfect. I'm just saying that we don't beat him, and we use different methods. We're trying our best to find different methods to raise him. So when he was a toddler, we used to use timeout a lot. It's just some timeout used to be like a physical space. We put him in a corner, and let me tell you something. That man he not playing that timeout game. So that was his punishment part of it. Because I think he still need the punishment. But it had a point in time where you don't even matter send him in the corner. Just say Zachary in a timeout. And he said, no, right in front of the TV, right between me and Stacey. And he crying because we tell him he in a timeout. Of course, that ain't going to work forever. But you know what I mean? We're trying to find more ways. But one of the things I do is if you study and you do well in your test, brother, I tell you at the beginning of the term what is your reward for that? Beside the fact that you're feeling good and you're proud of yourself and so on, I go and get a nice little reward. No, I talk a little looser because I went into like 100 US and thing kind of figures. I really should have started smaller. But I was using that because every minute he asked me for some battle pass in Fortnite. I said, of nonsense to buy in this game. And I don't want to be buying that on my credit card all the time. So I say, here, what's going on? You do X, Y, Z. You do your exercise every day. You practice your music. You go your taekwondo classes. You do well in school. We define what is well and so on. Smart goals. Remember that? We set up every single thing. And then it had an opinion-based part where, according to your mother say about your behavior and what I say about your behavior, then we assess it. And when the school term done, I sit down with him and I say, all right, brother, all right, we have 100 US here. What mark you hitting your schoolwork? This was maths, this right? So you're at 100% here, right? Your schoolwork is thick. When it comes to piano, how much days you practice? And we go through it and he gets his reward. And I don't know if he got turn out perfect, and I don't know none of these things. But what I know is me and him going to have a good little journey through life in terms of the relationship that both of us have. At least I will continue to feel good about it in terms of the way I approaching it. And I hope it work. I hope it turn out for the best because I anticipate, and I've seen it already because he's now 9, 10. By the time he reached 13, 14, that's a different set of problems. But I make the big adjustments as a parent. Because he's still trying to figure life out. He don't know nothing. We have to keep that in mind. When you're 13, 14, you don't know nothing and you feel you know everything. So I sit back and me and Stacey work out, okay, how are we going to adjust the way we approach rewarding him and the way we're going to approach disciplining him? But given that story and the fact that it's about, we have some things to celebrate in the midst of all the sad news this week, and there's quite a bit. They have some things to celebrate, and one of the things is 100 years of the Grandmaster. This on the 18th of April, we're looking at 100 years of Kitchener. You know what I mean? His 100th anniversary. And I saw a little article in Wired 868 that all this will make sense eventually, right? I saw a little article in Wired 868. I want to read a little snippet for you from it, right? It said April 18, 2022. This is from, I understand from Lasana, this is a letter like a contributor opinion piece. And salute to Wired 868 for publishing it too. It's great, great, great article. April 18, 2022 marks the 100th anniversary of the birth of Alwyn Roberts, aka Lord Kitchener, the Grand Master. He says Kitch is deserving of our nation's highest accolade, the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Bestowing the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on Kitch posthumously this year would indeed be a fitting tribute with which the nation can show its sincere appreciation and thanks for the sterling contribution Kitch has made to the cultural landscape. I don't intend to adumbrate. Like, I should have given myself some kind of reward in English. What the hell is adumbrate? I don't intend to that Kitch's numerous impressive achievements. I guess he mean repeat. I am confident that Tuco will do so when it nominates Kitch for the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago this year. Suffice it to say, that's what you say, that suffice it to say. I learned a lot from this article. Big up me. From being a genius of calypso, as his numerous road march and virtual panorama musical test pieces can attest, he was quite an entrepreneur as well, as evident from his very successful calypso review tent. Moreover, the impact of Kitch's music on attracting tourists to our shores for carnival in his heyday, as well as spawning Trinidad and Tobago style carnivals around the globe, is beyond question. Kitch also gave willingly of his time and talent. He took so many young and aspiring Calypsonians under his wing. Having benefited from his mentorship, many such individuals have gone on to have successful careers in the field of music. In this regard, we can no doubt recall Scrunter's 1982 selection, The Will. Remember that? Just get the will from Lord Kitchener, which so epitomizes the impact of Kitchener's mentorship on the lives of his mentees and proteges. In 1993, for very spurious reasons which do not bear repeated, Kitch and Sparrow were denied the nation's highest award, the Trinity Cross, although both were clearly deserving of the honor. They were both offered the Shakonia Medal Gold, which Kitch refused, having regard to the aspersions cast on his character, among other things. So I go tell you what happened in 1990 something, right? If I remember it right. They had offered the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to believe it was still called the Trinity Cross at that time. And he had refused it. I believe he and Kitchener had refused at the time. But particularly for Kitchener, one of the things that was bandied about was the fact that Kitchener had woman and all the thing about womanizing and those things. I hope somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I think that is what they were saying. It's a woman thing and he had outside children and all that. Outside children. So that was the reason that we say the man couldn't. So in other words, all his accomplishments get cast aside and put in the shadow for things that somebody in the moral judgment say that it's immoral, and we shouldn't give somebody of the Trinity Cross, we shouldn't give the Trinity Cross nothing to nobody who immoral. All that is why I like how they changed it to the Order of the Republic of Trinidad, because the Trinity and the Cross thing make it sound like it's a religious thing, and if you're going against a religious thing, you can't. So I agree with Sat Maraj, you know what I mean? My mentor. Thankfully, and Sparrow refused it at the time too, so they went on to say, thankfully, when the UNC-led administration was in office during 2020-2015 period, the situation was rectified with respect to Sparrow, and the Order of the Republic was bestowed upon him. However, Kitchener was still left out in the cold. I don't know if it's because he had passed at the time, or if they didn't want to do a posthumous award or what. He went on to say it could not have been because of his earlier refusal of the Shakonia Gold, as McCandle Dagger, who had refused it before. Let me read exactly what he says. McCandle Dagger, who had done the same thing and subsequently had the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago bestowed upon him when the same administration was in office. So in other words, they're saying, so this would suggest that Sparrow didn't refuse it. Maybe Sparrow had accepted the Shakonia and then he accepted the Order of the Republic at the time, as he should. But they're saying that they couldn't say that they didn't give it to Kitchener because he refused, because Dagger had refused and come and get the Order of the Republic. But Dagger was also part of the PP, if I'm mistaken. I'm not sure if Kitchener was part of the PP. But he went on to say it also could not have been because Kitch died in the year 2000 as Mr. Adrian Kohler Rienzi died in 1972, and he was deservedly awarded the Order of the Republic of Trinidad, which was collected by his son in 2012. Okay, so it can't be because it was posthumous. It can't be because he refused before. But whoever wrote this article, I want you to appreciate the two names you called there was Dagger and Kohler Rienzi, which it would be you could see why the administration between 2010 and 2015 would want to honor these two men. But Kitchener, again, I don't know what they could do. And this is what I was saying about Super Blue. Because how much more can you do? to say that you deserve it. How you could do more than what Super Blue do in soccer to say you deserve in the Order Republic? What you have to do again? He went on to say it has been said that politics has a morality of its own. We cannot change what happened in the past, but we can certainly seek to rectify the grave injustice that was perpetrated against the Grandmaster by bestowing on him, albeit belatedly, the Order Republic on Trinidad and Tobago. He says, may God forgive us and bless our nation. I like this article a lot. It ties into so much we talk about over the past few weeks. I was talking about this thing with like how you're coming up with who wins this thing. The top person in the things that we created. We create soca, we create calypso, we create pan. The top people in these things, what we using to judge that they could get a Shakonia medal. The top academics or the top people in medical or the top people in business, the top politicians, well, not so much union leaders, but Rienzi get, right? But the top people in their field should qualify for this thing. So when you take somebody who is the top of his field, like Super Blue, not the top of his field for a short period of time, the top of his field from 1980, that is Soca Baptist. Soca Baptist was 1980. Wherever year was Soca Baptist, all the way up to today. One of the top people in his field, top people in his class. He can't get the Order Republic. He accepted it. I can't remember what he gave. It was the Shakonian thing, but I find in the spirit of what we're talking about today, in terms of reinforcing the behaviors that we want to see, acknowledging the achievement, these are things that little children, the same children who we're trying to discipline and doing a poor job at, these are little things that they could look forward to. So when I'm a child in the arts, I know that the nation values my contribution. Whether I'm a writer, I write books, whether I'm a painter, I'm a dancer, I'm a calypsonian. We can't continue to just look down on these things like they're not contributing anything to society and then cry whole day because Blaxx dead and we can't take Blaxx, and we had a Lego for 2 weeks and then we forget about Blaxx completely. I do agree with these things at all. I agree with this writer 100% that at the 100th year of Lord Kitchener, the anniversary of his birth, I like how he put that, is a good time to go and get the Order Republic to the Grandmaster. Well, was my favorite calypsonian. Don't ask me how much favorite calypsonian I have. That's my favorite calypsonian. And I want to, because he's my favorite calypsonian, and we're talking about beating children and thing, I want to play a song for you that is so relevant. I played it here before, but I like it, so you gotta listen to it again. This song is about a young girl and the mother having a conversation about when you're going from a little girl to a young lady, the kind of things you just want to do. All of us, all who beat it, children, is the same thing you wanted to do when you was a young lady. So taking this Kitchener song, Panorama Night, one of my favorite.
Met with disaster, shame to tell the mother. Mildred met with disaster, it happened at Panorama. She left the crowd and went somewhere drinking. Well, some pan thief she belonging. She ran home, she eye full of tears, relating the mother of the affairs. She said, Mommy, I know it ain't right. Don't beat me, Mommy. Oh God, I was feeling tight, darling. I tried to restrain the captain, but he won't take me high. Mama, lose it. Panorama night.
Yes. Yes.
Mom, this is how he tricked me. He waited until I was tipsy.
What you do?
Then
He started moving his finger like a octopus down my shoulder.
Down and down, the finger start creeping, as though he knew where my purse was hiding. All our struggle,
All our plea, he still won't take no notice of me. Say, Mommy, I know it ain't right.
Don't beat me, Mommy.
Oh God, I was feeling tight.
Tight, darling. I try to restrain the captain,
but he won't take me high. Mama lose it.
Panorama night. I can't believe how it happened. For a start, my purse wasn't open.
I had my legs crossed together and holding my purse in the center.
All at once, something got me frightened. It was despite the hands of the captain. Me time I turned to give him a slap.
The purse just vanished out of my lap. Mommy, I know it ain't right.
Don't beat me, mommy. Oh, God.
I was feeling tight,
Darling. I tried to restrain the captain,
but he won't take me high. Mama lose it.
Panorama night.
And here what you say? Here what you say?
Mom, if you wouldn't beat me,
Yes?
I will tell the truth of the story. I was only blaming the captain, but
That's not the way how it happened.
I'm the head of the party, I admit. Mom, it's
Me who called him to take it.
He begged so pitifully.
I broke down and gave him as a souvenir.
Mommy,
I know it ain't right.
don't beat me,
Mommy, oh God, I was feeling tight.
darling.
I tried to restrain the captain, but he won't take me high. Mama lose it. Panorama night. That alone deserve the order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Well, you're writing, boy, you're a literary genius and genius in delivery. How you gonna get that man to 100 years of making the play of the author coming from YD68 or the contributor to get this man he 100 years? We can't be just making moral judgments about a person. That is a situation we have to make right. And I'm moving on to talk about this situation with this gold medal in common, and what do you call it thing now? In SCA. Because it's another example of us poorly implementing reward system. Maybe that's why we have to beat so. We have to according to Kitchener. We all have to lose it sometime. But talking about lose it, Will Smith lose it the other day and the Academy come out and say the man deserved 10 years away from the Oscars. Now, I just want to say that the Oscars is very brave to ban people for 10 years because they're not going to be around for 10 years. So that ban is 5-6 years max because it's not going to have that no more. Nobody will care about that. It's not that important. Only just sitting around patting one another in the back. I find only brave to assume that going to last 10 years. But again, I don't think, Will Smith, only know my stance on that, right? Will Smith shouldn't have hit the man. I wish that didn't happen. Chris Rock starting to come out. I see Jada come out dress up like an Oscar. And you know what I mean? It's starting to become more public. Will Smith say he in rehab for anger issues. I figured that was coming. And we started to see little videos surfacing again. One where he telling Jada, listen, I don't want to be in no video. And you're filming me. I tell you, Earthquake had the best breakdown in the Earthquake. There's a special by Earthquake on Netflix. I think I talked about this last week too. Watch that special. And watch Earthquake Breakfast Club interview. Because Earthquake was on Breakfast Club. Earthquake is a comedian, right? And Dave Chappelle's produced 4 comedians. I know he and Donald Rollins. I can't wait to see Donald Rollins' own. But Earthquake is the first one he released as a stand-up that he wasn't a part of, right? So you'll find it on Netflix. And it's very funny. That's how Earthquake... I've known Earthquake since... what do you call this thing, boy? Def Comedy Jam and Comic View and thing on BET. Earthquake bad. And the special was bad. It's non-stop. But Earthquake say on Breakfast Club when they asked him about his situation, he say, boy, Will Smith is a man who in love with a woman who don't love him back. We've all been there. And I think it's the best breakdown I've seen. And the more I watch it, you realize that this man in love with this woman and she in love with him. And Quick was saying that he was in that situation before, so he knows what it's like. And there's nothing you could do. As a man, you want to do the most and try to convince this woman that you love her. And boy, you can't make nobody love you. If she not in love with you, boy, she never go and be in love with you. That not happening. You see this notion that they go come around, come around somebody else. That not happening. And she seemed to be, I find like both of them unhappy. Because when you see that video, she's talking about some therapist coming on Red Table Talk. Now, of course, this real old, you seen a lot of old stuff coming back around it. And she going and film the man and he's saying, nah, don't just start rolling when I think. And he looking unhappy and she letting it be known she rolling. The best you could hope for is when you're in love with a woman who's not in love with you, that she blank you, you know. It doesn't feel good, because I remember getting blank back. I didn't like this blanket because I find like, you know what I mean? I in the game them days, and I find like this one looking good and I looking good and we could be looking good and I get blank. I real study that woman. I never had nothing with this woman, but I real study that woman and I get blank. But let me tell you something. That's the best thing could happen to you, because that woman, if we had get together, it might have been, she ain't go, she clearly ain't like me. She probably had plenty other things going on in life. I don't know what was happening with her and thing. I try a few times to go out to this, to that, and that girl keeps saying no, boy. And I know she feeling the kid. But boy, I thank God for that, because if she's a different kind of woman, she could string me along for a long time, you know, and make the best of the situation. Wink, wink, if I could put it like that. But she didn't do that. I appreciate that. I'm glad I land where I land, because that kind of headache for a lifetime is a problem, and like we'll buy up that headache wholesale, boy. But I do feel 10 years is fair. I think it's real unnecessary. Or they could have come and, you know, slap in the face, or they could have give me a slap on the wrist and say, well, don't do that again, because it's the same thing that we do Kitchener here, you know. We take a lifetime of achievement and we take individual moments of what indiscretion by somebody else's judgment. And you just, I mean, Will Smith has been a good boy for so long, so he can't do no right in this world. You was the good boy, the golden boy, the poster child, doing everything right. And you make a big out, yes, you make a public out of the people event and stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, all you should have come to him at that moment and say, listen, well, you can't stay. You make the whole thing uncomfortable. This is thing, we need you to leave. Jada, you could stay if you want, but I prefer you go too, because, you know, you can't stay if he go. You always want. And call that a day. And, you know, we do the public apology thing if all you want and say, listen, we understand Will Smith, he had a breakdown. We support him in his rehab. I don't know, but this generation of people, we really like to condemn. We like to lock people in jail, banish you from things forever. In the same, we do Louis C.K., that another comedian, and he was able to collect a Oscar for his best comedy album. Salute to him. Louis C.K. is a funny guy, but I mean, you make an indiscretion. Listen, at some point in life, we all going and make a out. We make plenty outs if we get to this point already. You could just banish a man for a lifetime. But that's my take on Will Smith. Let me keep it local here. The Education Ministry rescinds a letter to 2020 top SEA student. Sorry, Education Ministry rescinds letter. 2020's top SEA student will get President Medal gold after all. So this was a real strange story to me between two young students. I think let me get the names right. You know, I quick to call the wrong name here. Aaron Subero and Amira Biku. So this from The Guardian from Renuka Singh. The article came out last week, and it was that one child was awarded the top performer, and with the top performer medal in SCA, apparently you get a gold medal and a laptop and some other small prizes. But the gold medal, the achievement, the recognition, as I am promoting in this episode, is what we need. I think that's a positive thing for children, you know, celebrate high achievers, celebrate their successes and so on. I think that's positive. But somehow, after the exam, and the girl was then notified that she was the top performer and was the happiest, because, I mean, that's something you deserve to be real happy about. Apparently, she got a letter some years after to say, how going on? You will come and collect the silver. And then it's like, well, what's going on here? I mean, all you tell you is the top performer. And it turns out that another student had queried their marks because they find he did not up to his usual very, very high standards. I mean, his parents might have been expecting him to get a top prize. I guess in the lead up to the exam, you would kind of know where you are in terms of your performance. And When they queried the mark, he ended up better than Amira. This is Aaron Subero. So Aaron didn't get no medal or something like that. And then Amira get notified that she get the gold medal. Then they query Aaron grade. And Aaron realized he had better marks than her. Or the people realized they had better marks than her. It was some kind of mistake on the paper. Or I don't know what it is. So then they notify him he gained gold and they push Amira down to silver. Listen. Whoever get the highest mark should get the gold medal, right? And if a query is allowed and you get more marks on the query, I guess the person who get his marks had to be the highest. I would suggest that going forward, better you let the queries go through first before you notify anybody, because this man done going Fatima, he's a big man. And I think this Amira, what school they say Amira going? She in secondary school too, so it's like you're calling these people back for this thing, and this become a national story. Because of course, Amira family get Anna and Ram Logan and them to take any. This was the same thing I was saying about the pipeline thing. You know? Any story that have the chance again political mileage, the same lawyers show up every time, because it's a way to show that the government's inefficient and it's a campaigning tool as far as I'm concerned. But if it's my child and Anna and Ram Logan show up here to think we rolling in because he don't lost case on them kind of thing, so when his name come up, it's gonna become a national story and it's gonna get regularized. So apparently we at the point where again regularized, right? So Renuka Singh in The Guardian says the two children at the center of the SCA Awards fiasco, Aaron Subero and Amira Biku, will share the top spot for the first time since the award system began. I think it's the right decision. In a media release on Saturday, the Minister again, the Ministry of Education, apologized for the fiasco that transpired over the past couple of days and said it was not intentional and should not have occurred. But while the ministry has promised to investigate how this debacle happened in the first place, the parents of each golden child said they are happy with the resolution. So, let me communicate and talk, you can solve problems. Sunday Guardian spoke to Aaron's mother, Natasha Dikoto Subero, and Amira's father, Dr. Nicholas Biku, Saturday, and both offered hearty congratulations to each other. I'm looking forward to meeting her and congratulating both her and her parents, Dikoto Subero said in a telephone interview. We really have to celebrate the children, and I can't wait to meet them. It's so positive. I like this. Dikoto Subero is an engineer and her husband is in IT, and Aaron has inherited their mathematical inclination. While this is a major achievement for her son, it is not his first. Young Aaron won second place in the mental maths competition in 2019, placing first in the Port of Spain district and second in the country. Fatima man, right? I just pointed out there. All the negativity that was thrown at them was unwarranted. It's not all fault how things were handled. I think both children did excellent and they should be proud. I think the parents should be proud as well, she said. Amira's father shared similar sentiments. In a brief telephone interview, Biku described his daughter as humble and one to shy away from the limelight. These are exceptional results from two brilliant children. I like this. I like it. The country went into lockdown in March 2020, and at the time school were closed and SCA exams were postponed. The 2020 batch sitting exam also rose under the COVID-19. What else to say? Nothing else important here. Listen, I'm just grateful for a positive story. I think all's well that ends well. Lawyers could go away, let these two children and their parents come together, knock a little glass, celebrate the achievements of the children and so on. And as I always say, celebrating the high achievements of others is not putting down anybody else. Anybody who's successful in attempting that SCA exam or assessment, you did great. Continue to strive, and you and your children continue to strive, because I can't remember when last I see somebody who was real successful and I asked them, listen, how you doing the SCA? Everybody path different, everybody route to success is different. And we could get up there, regardless of what school we go. Somebody was saying that, it's not what school you go in, it's the effort you put in when you get there. And we all know that. So, salute to Amira, and let me get the names right, because me and names, Amira and Aaron. Salute to both of y'all. Super results. And it spawned the discussion about SCA again, and whether SCA should still be a thing or it should not be a thing. I meet a few parents recently who had their children go through SCA, and I was telling you all how, that still is a nerve-wracking thing. And is 11 years old a good time for us to make that decision about that's so pivotal to the next 5-6 years of our life at least? I don't know. I think SCA is better than common entrance, because common entrance, we all had one day to get prepared for exam, and how you do on that day would have determined so much in terms of his secondary education, but I don't know. But how much times I play Crook Crook Common Entrance song in this in this podcast? I like it goes back to show you, like say Calypso all stories at all. But it's just the reality of this type of an exam, because the obscurity, these two children aside, the obscurity of the results and the fact that you could query it, and you ain't querying to say one person do a little better, you query it and the person end up being the top marked person in the country. Salute Aaron. But it makes me wonder, what would happen if a mirror had query her own? When you get the top grade, you wouldn't study to query yours, but suppose you have a few marks there in the kitty too. And why are there errors in the grading of exams? That does not instill much confidence in a system like this. And I always wonder why educational bodies from primary school, apparently, I thought this was just a UE thing. But I had to query grades in UE before, and they don't share with you what was the grading of the paper. Now, I suppose a part of it is subjective, and you could always argue for more marks and those types of things. But when the more marks turn out to make you the top performer, and you wasn't in the top 3 before, I don't know. I think the system wants rejigging. We had to look at the whole thing and see where it is, because it's just too much room. And what was I saying about the port last week? We design systems that leave a lot of room for corruption, and I believe is deliberately so. Where you never have no change, you can't take links and them kind of thing. They designed for little things like this to happen. Because a parent like me, my child passed for Fatima. I'm not going to query no grade to see if they get the top mark and them kind of thing. It's clear that both these parents have their child driven on some kind of achievement. Because you hear where they say, he accustomed being tops, he accustomed being first and second and stuff. So when they must see he passed for Fatima, but he nowhere in the top percentile or whatever they use to measure it, they realize they had to query it. But what about all the other children who didn't query it, and so much time passed, and now this thing, it's just messy. But we like systems like these as a society. As I talk about me and you, we like these kind of systems because they leave space for the little corruption. But that and the Crocro's song "Corruption and Come," I want to say 1987. Man. Every week I find myself having to Google Calypso Monarch titles. But I think it's 1987 when Crocro sing "Corruption and Common Entrance." And I'll give a little piece of it, because it's so relevant. And I think, oh no, that's not 87 at all. 88. I am far. 3 Borats and "Corruption and Common Entrance." It's so relevant. This is how much years ago, and you're seeing a thing like this coming out now. And I think this is exactly what he was trying to say about it. And when you listen to a piece of the lyrics in his song, because Crocro, well, I would think, again, a literary genius, didn't say what school they passed for, He said they had to pick. So in other words, it's something like if it's have an exam, yes, but only picking people for different things. So if it is a mistake like this could be made for the top 3. What happened at that margin line where you pass for Fatima and I pass for another school? That thin margin where, because the highest achievers who gain 100% in the exam and 99.5%, that would be few, right? But when you reach, let me say the threshold to pass for your top school is 97%. You're going to have a lot more bunching around 97% than at 99%, right? So when you have 4 or 5 students who fighting for that 99th and 100th percentile, that 97 might have a couple thousand students. And then these places in the school only have a couple hundred places in your top schools in each district, right? How those decisions being made? Who getting left out? And who mark could get query? And if it get query, how you going to put them? Because if we had the margin, right? When we are the top, is a prize, and I guess silver, and I get an Ram Logan, so both of we get gold. But when we are the margin, and I tell you, you pass for Fatima, and then when we query it, I realize, no, somebody else do better than you. Does that person get removed from Fatima and put in the next school? Or, I just put food for thought, right? These things are a little bit murky. And it's the murkiness that's create the space for corruption, I feel, which is what we like as a society. So, Let's see how much of this I could remember. I'm not a young man, so let her work with me. I ain't thinking vile, and I ain't trying to protect my child, but corruption is a constant annoyance. Going on for too long in common entrance. Your son don't have to be intelligent, that is a lie. Your father must pull a good string with complexion high. You could be bright like a bulb and from Lavanti. Forget Holy Names Convent and Bishop Sansti, because they have to pick Lakadeo Budu, Krishna Maharaj, because Arjun and Saj father have big garage. Try to be Suni Muni and Pulmani, the brother, sister, son and Narwani, Hadid Montano, Sabga and Abraham. They pick so much big shot children, they get jam. And when they full them big shot schools right up to the neck, they send all them poor ones in the junior sec. Too much high class in the class. Tra la 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 la. Only high class in the class. Tra la la la. Only high class in the class. Tra la 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 la. Ba da ba. Right. Before common entrance day last year, a lineman on Independence Square, a woman shopping bag fall down on the pavement. I see uniform cloth for Holy Names Convent. I say, woman, how you know your child passed for that school? She say, my connection's cool and me ain't no fool. She say, my husband and the staff, and she start to laugh. She say, Krokro inside the whole ministry is math, because they have to pick Baliram, Gobin, Indra and Gokul. All of them have to pass for prestige school, and if your name is Cornel, you pass with these. All them Cornelius of Fatima and St. Mary's, you must be politically active and have your party card to pass for big shot schools here in Trinidad. And when they fill them big shot schools right up to the neck, they send all them poor ones in the junior sec. Oh God, sorry. I mean to bang up the mic, so you know what I mean? So then you say a song like that, the great Krokro literary genius. It just tells you a story about, you know what I mean? The more things change, the more things remain. Well, one thing changed, right? I shouldn't say that. One thing changed. And congrats again to Aaron and Amika and Aaron, right? One thing changes is that the gas price is going up. And we haven't riot yet. They say $1 more for super, $1 more for premium, 50 cents more for diesel. The rationale behind 50 cents again for diesel is that you know, with the changes in diesel, we're not going to get the same kind of hike in price of food stuff. The DNA test results, that is a lie. I mean, everything going to go up, and we saw it coming. We know what it is. I want people to remember here, right, that when they say the price is going up at the pump, right? What is the actual story is that the subsidy is being removed. And when the subsidy removed, we end up paying a higher price because the government bearing less of the burden by paying part of it for us. I talk about that with the Tobago, Air Bridge and Sea Bridge, where we only pay, what we pay to go to Tobago? $50 on the boat and $300 by plane. That's not the real cost of the thing. The government is paying the balance fee. And a week like this week, to a can't get a flight to go to Tobago. So, you know, every Easter is way too late to book to go to Tobago. I don't want to go for the Easter weekend, but I certainly want to be in Tobago sometime soon. And the week we are going to Tobago, the podcast looking shaky. You know what I mean? I just letting all you know now. I'm planning and I'm going to be out of here. When I'm out of here, we listen to some old episode. There's plenty of old episodes that I miss, and when you listen to half and then you'll go back to that, right? But the gas prices, what it is going to go up. The prices we face at these stores, I mean, you're hearing it more and more every week where the prices, the cost that we face on the grocery bill getting higher and higher. Unfortunately, it's going to continue to get higher. I don't want people to walk away with the feeling in any way that at some point when the gas price go back down because the war finish in Ukraine and thing, that our price that we pay, that price is not going back down. What we will hear in a couple of years, and it happened already because all the parties are in campaign mode already, if you didn't notice. We're heading towards mid-2022. The next election is 2025. So let me assume we're halfway into the new PNM reign. And we have the distance to the next election. The parties are positioning themselves every day. They all, rollers on the political hustings, doing his, I don't know what it's called those. The UNC having almost nightly meetings where they're talking about everything. They're responding to every article in the paper. So we in election mode. And I keep saying before the episode, I'll look into that. But I'm sure they have other elections coming up between now and the general election too. So the parties campaigning internally and otherwise, right? So what you're going to hear in a little while is one of the parties, probably the opposition party or the strongest party at the time when the election come in that could challenge the incumbent PNM government. They are going to tell you that they are going to put back the subsidy on gas, right? It is one of the easiest things to campaign based on, to say they're going to reopen Petrotrain and re-energize our oil sector. They're also going to say that they're going to put subsidies on food and take things off the VAT list and all those things. Like recently, I suppose because of COVID, we get no duties and those things on computers and phone and tablets and computer accessories and all that. Although the definition of computer accessories seems to be based on what customs say is a computer accessory. Unless you're willing to go and challenge them like Aaron parents, right? But they define it as computer accessory. But the government, whoever, they come into campaign and say, hey, we're going to make hair sweet again. We're going to make prices low. Hey, let me tell you one time. Don't believe them. That's not going to happen. One of the people I'm interested in, as I say, the men who have my vote, is the great Watson Duke. At this point in time, if election was tomorrow, I'm voting for Duke. I'm willing to move into a constituency where Duke moving into. So they say, where the article, boy? Reading from the Newsday, this is by Jensen Lavend. PDP's leaders next target after taking Tobago. PDP's leaders next target after taking Tobago. Watson eyes Trinidad, and a nice little picture of Watson and his family. You know what I mean? As a politician, you had to be a family man. Or you had to at least act like you're a family man, right? So you know the picture of the family and things. You know, the PR people working. They say 4 months after demolishing the once mighty PNM 14-1 in December 6 Tobago Assembly election, PDP political leader Watson Duke has cast his eyes across the water towards Trinidad. Speaking at the launch on Sunday of the PDP's Trinidad office at 2nd Street, Barataria. Let me write down that. I feel like go head down to 2nd Street, Barataria and give him a party card, as Krokro suggests. Duke said the PNM and UNC have no concern to him as he sets his sights on national elections having the PDP. I'm glad he said this. I'm glad he come out and said this. Just last week I was saying I wonder if he just come in to fight some marginals and win a 2-seat. They said the opening had the makings of a carnival band launching Moko Jumbies, fire breathers, soca artist Tassa, and an open bar like it Jack Warner style. The PDP is not a force, nor do we want to be a force. I think he means third force. The PDP is a political revolution. That's what the PDP is. We are not a force and we are not in competition. All right, okay, sorry, he didn't mean third force. He's not a force, he's a revolution. We are not a force and we are not in competition with Gary Griffith or the PNM or the UNC. We don't want to part of nobody. Duke said he's not interested in forming any coalition or any alliances with any political party, including Griffith's soon-to-be launched National Transformation Alliance. Hey. What? People on the move, boy. No, this feels very 2008, 2009-ish, where we had Third Force, COP, NJAC, TOP. It feels very, very familiar. It's Thanos where everybody's joined up, or what's the situation? What's the superhero where everybody's joined up to defeat Thanos or something? So I don't know nothing about them thinking about it. Feeling like that, where they are all claiming that what they represented is an option away from the dreaded conundrum of UNC and PNM foolishness, where the undecided voter finds themselves every year trying to figure out, should I, and people promote this too, pick the best of both worlds. They're both bad, but we have to pick the better of the two. And if you don't pick one of the bad two, hush your mouth for 5 years and take pressure because you didn't. This is garbage, nonsense. This idea that because I don't vote, I don't have a say in what happened in the political landscape is foolishness, nonsense. When I stop having a say here is when I start to work tax-free and I start to buy groceries tax-free because I contribute to the state through my income tax, my corporate tax, my value-added tax, my gas tax. So nobody can tell me that about vote. Vote is one part of the process, yes, of being a citizen. But it's not everything. So we need to stop that foolishness about if you don't vote, you can't think, blah, 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 blah. So Guy Griffith coming with, what do you think name? NTA? National Task Force Alliance? What does it mean? National Transformation Alliance, or PDP. All of them claiming to be this. Well, let me not say all of them yet. Let me wait for Gary to launch first. But the PDP certainly coming out and say that they are not a force, they are a revolution. And they come to give us an option away from PNM and UNC. I want to remind people that that is what the COP did say too. Now, I hear from, I ain't going to call no name, but a little birdie who I would consider a credible source give me a little breakdown as to what happened with COP. And it makes sense. The man say, or woman, say that with the COP, when they win a certain amount of seats, they were under, you have financiers, right? It costs a lot of money to run an election. And when I see PDP having Moko Jambi's Fire Breeders, soca artist, Tassa, and an open bar, I have to assume that they have some financiers on board, because that would be pretty expensive to pull off, right? Maybe that's what the Dubai trip was about, securing finance and so on. But the financiers would support a political party, but the financiers themselves looking for political gain. Let me not fool ourselves. Or at least the pushing of their political agenda, or steering themselves away from a political agenda that does not benefit them. A terrible example I will use is Pablo Escobar or Miguel Felix, whatever his name is, from the next El Chapo, the next Narcos. Putting their financial support behind political parties who were not going to support extradition. And I'm not saying anything like that happening here, but I'm just saying that when people put their money behind political parties, it is usually for an agenda. There's a reason that they do it. And I'm not going to consistently put money behind you for altruistic reasons, and you're losing. So a birdie tell me that when the COP only win a certain amount of seats, financiers saying, hey, we out, If only want to continue to be a political party, we don't want no part of this, because only clearly I give only X amount of money and only come up with nothing, so only can't help me. And that might have led to the motivation towards aligning or making coalition and so on. I want to remind you as well that a coalition government in Guyana was extremely successful just the other day too. So coalition governments work, but the PDP, at least for now, is claiming that they're not no part of PNM and UNC. I want to say that is the best thing for them to say, because a politician wants votes and they will say what they have to say to get votes. At this point in time, for them to get support, that's the best way to go. Because you cannot, it's very, very difficult to convince a UNC to vote for the PNM. Almost impossible. It's also very difficult to convince a PNM to vote for the UNC. Almost impossible. No matter what the PNM do, it has some people go vote for them every time. They don't even want to hear. It's like me and Apple products. I don't care about your next laptop. I don't know what them things do. I see laptop just flip all the way around and it's 3-in-1 and you could take off the screen. I don't care. Because I'm loyal to Apple. I like Apple products a lot. When Apple makes something new, I want it. I don't care what they say, if it's good or nothing. I like it. It's the best place to be. I like to go in an Apple store. Even when I'm broken, I go in the Apple store and just touch things. I like Apple a lot. So there's nothing that Dell could do to convince me that, hey, you should probably get yourself this Dell phone. No. We don't play these Dell games, right? So it's the same thing with UNC and PNM. I don't get nobody wrong. If guys is loyal to Apple, you loyal to Rollers. I understand that. You have your reasons, right? So as a new political party, you're wasting time and money. Some part of this podcast is always be a marketing class, right? And one of the main things I tell my marketing group now is, you see, targeting is an essential part of marketing. You have to decide who you're going to market to. Not because you can't market to everybody, it's because marketing to everybody is expensive. Think of it, if you want to reach everybody in this country, you had to advertise on radio, TV, social media. You have to get one of them loudspeakers running around saying scrap iron, old battery buying. It costs a lot of money to advertise to everybody in the country, or to market or communicate to everybody in the country. So the better bet is for you to identify the people who you want to market to, which might be a subset of the whole country. So listen, if I'm making a little product, if it's for women, I want to talk to women alone. So that way, I don't have to spend money trying to attract or talk to men. Assuming, right? So as a political party, they have marketing strategies and things too. Them going to tell them, listen, who you're going after. Any good marketing person will tell you, don't bother to spend money marketing to UNC people or PNM people. We could do something different after we win the election. I just talk about strategy for campaigning. They are going to try to talk to what we call the undecided voter. I like the idea of splitting it up into two groups. The undecided voter, we already know what that is. That's the person who's waiting for information before they decide who they're voting for. And probably voting based on issues, right? Or who are the best jersey, like myself. I consider myself an undecided voter. They also have a group called an uninterested voter. I think we don't talk enough about. That is mostly young people who are uninterested in the political process. They don't see how it affects their lives and their well-being and so on. They may see it later on in life, right? But at this point, they don't see it. And they don't care. Unless you're doing something directly for them, like bringing some jerseys, some money, getting me some kind of thing on the campaign, I get some kind of work to do something on this thing. I'm not interested in it at all. Or I go based on what somebody tell me, a community leader of any sort, right? Above board and below board community leaders, right? We voting with them because I, as a community leader, know I get level box drain contract and construction thing. So I bring the youth with me and say, if we vote this person in, this is what we will get. And once I get them contract, all is sweet. Everybody making money in the hood. You understand? What I think Watson Duke is going to do a very good job at, and we've seen it since he come here, is he's going to inspire the uninterested voter. Because you notice that, to me, and I probably be wrong about this if you ask people in Tobago, right? But so far in Trinidad, I'm not hearing Watson putting forward an agenda. Other than being anti-UNC and PNM, he don't have a stance, a manifesto, where he coming from, a philosophy. He's a revolution. And one thing I know in life is the young people like revolution, right? So when you tell them about revolution and thing, the system not working for them, they're on the block, they're not making no money. They say, you know what I mean? The gas price getting higher, food price getting higher, everything looking like it's against them. Jobs unavailable, school hard. You know what I mean? And they're on the block there, and somebody's going to come and tell them, listen, we got to get these people out. I'm looking at your needs specifically, you know what I mean? I talk in your language. And I honestly don't find PNM or UNC to be very good on the ground. Them two parties are aloof like hell. They full up of lawyers and lettered people, and you know what I mean? What is this again? Pide the ball, and we get real aloof as politicians. We well high above what happening on the ground, and then we try to be on the ground when it's election time, and act like we on the ground and run and kiss baby and hug up people. And listen, you just name 10 random people in parliament and look at them good. All of them so far removed from what happened on the ground is a shame, you know, hubris, you know. And Watson seems to be able to better appeal to people who are on the ground. And the way he's doing that is by being on the ground. So we always complain, you're not seeing your politician for so long and all this. Watson going to be present. Watson going to be on the ground. He's going to be there. Now, we will wait to see how that turns out, right? But I want to think that one of the things that make PNM really very strong since inception is because there was on the ground there. You know, they campaigned on a thing initially where, hey, we taking Trinidad back from the white man. But to be a part of that, to build that swell of support that lasting for decades, it's 50 years we're talking about, 50-something years of majority PNM rule. To be able to achieve that, you had to be on the ground. You had to do plenty Woodford Square, and the people who you're putting up as MPs, they have to come from the community. They have to represent, as true representation of the community to build that kind of strong brand over the years. And for UNC to get where they got in terms of, especially in their stronghold seats, they had to do the same thing over the years with Basdeo Pandey and the squad. But I just feeling like if we have two political parties now who's so high above ground that they can't see it. So I think that Watson Duke could really do some. I don't know if Gary Griffith could do it either. I mean, he has some support on the ground too. That would be interesting to see actually, because he does have some support on the ground, at least from what you see on social media. And it will be interesting to see if the same people he call cockroach and all these things is the people who we going and go among now. And who used to put the lie down to say, sorry, Gary, and all them things. If those people could get me elected now, because I could tell you, the people who he was accused of treating very gently and be side or be sure, whatever the thing is, it don't have enough for them to get elected. When you want to get elected somewhere, you're dealing with the majority. So let's see how it goes. But salute and congratulations to Watson Duke. Glad to see the new party launch and everything. The PDP is on the road and are waiting for my jersey. All right, talking about getting yourself ready for election too, right? Political leading, the incumbents seem to be making some moves because see an article this week, Jensen Lavender again, saying that UNC leader reiterates government illegally spying on citizens. So the day after the Prime Minister told law-abiding citizens they were not being spied on, opposition leader KPB, is reiterating that the state is invading citizens' privacy. In a media release on Wednesday, Prasad Bisesa said Minister of Local Government Faris Al-Rawi is a victim as he's being spied on and his WhatsApp messages are being monitored. On Monday night, she claimed for the second time in 12 years that the government was secretly spying on selected people in politics, the media, the judiciary, and in business. At a public meeting on Tuesday, Dr. Rowley denied the allegation, saying it was all a lie. Earlier that day, National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines said that it was just an attempt by Prasad Bisesa to remain relevant. That is his kind of response, right? They went on and on, but apparently she's saying that they're spying. He come out and he say that they have some kind of, I think it's software or something that they could use to spy on people, but of course, he said that is only for criminals. That is not for everybody. So if Kamala claiming that she had to be a criminal, remember the blimp? Like no changes. It's just new iterations of the same thing. You know what I mean? So apparently people being spied on and so on. And the backstory is apparently they say, you know what I mean? That's how they find out certain things about Faris and that's why they had to move him and them kind of thing. But he ain't that from me. That's what I allegedly say, right? So another article came out as well. Headline, this is by Anna Ramdas in the Express. British fraud busters back in TNT, right? British team back for life sport and EMBD probes. So it says a foreign investigative team has returned to Trinidad to continue its investigations into estate management and business development company and life sport. The Express understands that the team arrived on British Airways flight yesterday, led by Kate McMahon, the founder of Edmunds Marshalls McMahon. Opposition MP, Rudal Munilal, Dr. Rudal Munilal said he will be speaking about SRP Kate McMahon on the UNC meeting today. I go miss that. I think that's on Monday itself. Well, I will take it in and we'll talk about it next week if necessary. But he said they have received about 40 million from the government to hound down political opponents in a major scandal. I will speak about blatant and obscene attempts to persecute political opponents using taxpayers' money. I will tomorrow reveal the nature of a police interview in the United States. I say no more. And the process by which 4 British citizens became members of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So, the story is that these people, with Kate and them, being listed as SRPs, so they will have police power in Trinidad. In other words, they could arrest and possibly direct to arrest. So, it's not a rumor I have it. This is alleged to that it's not just Faris. Apparently, there's why Gary getting problems to become maybe the check Gary thing and they realize Gary thing. Because remember when Gary was there, one of the things Gary was saying was he was getting directing from a political directorate on how to run the police force, and he said nobody just summons me. So apparently that is what going down because these people come in to be a part of the police force. Apparently, SRP don't mean like me and you going to join as SRP. From what I understand is SRPs at a high level that will have the ability to direct police resources and so on. So it's going down. So all they could make. Force, Revolution, New Party, NHA, THA, or RHA. When the man in command, one he thing is to don't let nobody run against him, just lock up people wild. So we had 2.5 years apparently to get all these political opponents in jail. That is a kind of marketing to, get rid of your competition. That is a kind of marketing too. So apparently that going down, and I would be interested in looking at where this goes. Again, these are tricky things for me, very, very tricky, because the government, I understand you're responsible for national security and things, but when you start to put people in the police force and what you investigate in life sport, that was like 100 years ago. Not that I'm not saying that those things should be left alone and people should go unharmed, but there's so much under your own, like when you're talking about a life sport, you want a list of things that was questionable under the PNM government so far that could also be investigated or should also be investigated in terms of the way it was handled and the corruption, the at least the accusations or images of corruption. All they want to, but the checking and everything, you're going back into currently roads and life sport and EMBD and so on. Okay, something to keep an eye on, right? Especially given what was going on recently, because apparently, all my fires and Gary and allegedly these fellas is friends, so I'm saying, I don't know. I get very, very worried about these types of things. Because this kind of power in the wrong hands, not saying that it is the wrong hands, but this kind of power in the wrong hands could be tricky. Well, again, I might be working too hard. Joel Julian, you see, this is a perfect segue. The man say a 4-day work week. I working too hard, you know what I mean? I clearly need to cut down on these working days. This is from Joel Julian and the Guardian. We're running out of time, so I'm going to get through some things quick here. But I like this article in terms of what it was suggesting. They say, how do you feel about working 4 days for the same pay? They said there's a conversation currently taking place in the world and is being spearheaded by the organization aptly named 4-Day Week Global. Thousands of workers in the United States, Canada, and the UK, Australia, and New Zealand are currently participating in a 6-month program to determine the benefits of shortening the work week. Participants and observers around the world are hoping that if the experiment works out, a 4-day work week could become a reality. 100 years ago, we moved from a 6-day work week to a 5. I didn't know this. And we're overdue for an update. The 4-day work week is a reduction in the work week from a standard 40 hours to 32 hours for the same pay and benefits. This reduction has been proven to work for employees as well as employers. The 4-day work week global website states. So apparently Trinidad interested in this, and it will be interesting to see if the government takes up this stance, because when I looked at the price of oil going up, right, I think one of the responses could have been to tell people, all right, we have to remove the subsidies for gas, but what we're also going to do is limit the amount of days people have to travel to come to work and thing, especially because we have experience now with working from home, managing people who are working from home, systems and so on that will help us work remotely. So one of the things we could do is control price by managing demand. So if demand get a little limited in terms of how much gas we need to put in our car a day or week, we essentially not spend as much money on gas, so we don't feel the burden of the removal of the subsidy. But apparently that is not a thing. I mean, I was so surprised that this discussion happened. I was happy to see something like this in the Guardian, where I guess the private sector, places like BP and so on, do some of this already, right? What is called that? 540, 460, 390, whatever they do. Where they get a Friday off and thing. So this is not new to the world. People have been discussing this for a long time, and I just find like the way we quickly stepping back into what was, without any effort to keep the things that was winning. I was glad to see an article like this, and I'm eager to see how much of it we implement in Trinidad. Same thing with these schools, because another article from the Guardian, the ministry, there's no support for online modality when schools reopen. Yeah, I applaud that. I really was hoping that it had a kind of hybrid, but apparently they come out and say no for sure, nothing like that. I thought it was just Zachary's school saying this, but the ministry has made a statement on it. Annalisa Paul, this from the Ministry of Education. This is from the Guardian from Annalisa Paul, right? Ministry of Education and the Trinidad and Tobago, MOE and Tutor, right? Yesterday met to discuss a number of issues relating to the opening of schools on April 19th. Following the conclusion of the 2-hour-long session, Education Minister Nan Gadsby Dolly and Tutor First Vice President Marlon Seals said clarity had been achieved in several areas. The topics discussed included provision of personal protective equipment to school. I want to get to the main part. Steele states, as far as the Ministry of Education is concerned, there is no mandate to use the online modality. He stressed, where there are principals who are insisting on this mandate, they are doing it without any support from the ministry. Regarding the 3 feet, so you went on about social distancing and so on. So apparently from the ministry officially, there's no online modality. So the president, if the principal want to implement something or have situations in the school where you have an online or a hybrid system, even if it means that for a child who's sick or somebody who's staying home, who could still log in, the man say you're doing that on your own. So you know who got to pay for that? if you're churning in any of the Catholic schools or any of them things, it's heavy, walkathon, marathon, barbecue-a-thon. All them things coming now for us to pay for some method, because I am sure that there are schools who would have seen the benefits of it, but just like going back to work every day and facing the increasing cost of our society where all the prices rising, or a world where all the prices rising, especially those that are associated with us having to work in town every day, or work, drive to work every day, or get to work, commute to work is what I'm looking for. We're gonna do the same thing with the schools and get everybody back out there. So in a situation like mine, where I working in South, my son going to school in South, it's back to the highway over again. So salute to the people who are in the hybrid. He say, asked if a rotation or hybrid system is completely ruled out. Seal said yes. Right now, the plan is for physical reopening of all schools at all levels. No mention of rotation or any form of fashion was discussed or contemplated. So not only is it not going to be implemented, but it was never discussed, it was never contemplated, it was never on the table, is what this man's saying. So we're back there again. All right, before I get out of here, we're here for a long time now. I want to say congratulations to Ms. Ketanji Brown Jackson, making history as the first black woman confirmed to the U.S. Supreme Court. I wish I could play a couple excerpts from her speech, but the main thing coming from her speech was how she spoke about what she was able to achieve. And just somebody like her grandmother would have never believed that somebody could have been a black woman, could have been on the Supreme Court of the U.S., much less her as a little child would have been there. And basically saying that, listen, I standing on the shoulders of my ancestors. It was good to hear her say that. It's good for people to hear that, because I hear a little clip going around online about some of the justification people gave for voting no. And I didn't realize, my father much more into this than me. I was just looking for the outcome. I can't watch US news and follow these things in the way he does, but there was a clip going around with the justification. So all the people who vote no say, kind of like, what is the reasoning? And it made me realize that the process is a long one, where some of these people who have to vote have to meet her families, like an interview situation. I suppose there's a normal process, because it couldn't be different from what anybody else had to go through before. But to hear some of them saying, you have a lovely family, no doubt you achieve a lot and you're extremely bright and pleasant to be around and this and that, but I vote no. Boy, that's something about that just didn't feel right. Because it's like, and they're trying to base it on some judgments that she had made. And boy, listen, this is above my pay grade. I'm just happy to see somebody break these things, because sometimes we might underestimate how much representation matters. Where a little child who growing up in the States, who might grow up to study law, could see somebody like this achieve the highest point that could be achieved in your career. And salute to her for being able to do that. And they say the word Ketanji, the name Ketanji means like loved one who is loved. You know what I mean? And she managed to maintain so much poise during this whole process and it's so exposing. It make it put you in such a vulnerable state where all these people can come and discuss your life, work, and achievement and talk about it as if, no, you don't deserve to go any further. It's a strange process, the things we put people through. And I don't want to, because I've never seen this process before, I just want to assume that because she's black is the way I'm feeling about the process, and I'm black too, so it might be just a race thing where I'm feeling this way about the process. But somehow, especially in the context of what she's going for, a bunch of white men, old white men, talking about a black woman achievements, it don't feel good, it don't feel right at all. But she was able to maintain a lot of poise, and I suppose that had to be who she is, and her name says it all, one who is loved, and we love her for it. We appreciate the work and sacrifice that she would have put through, and even exposing herself to a process like this, because as far as I'm concerned, she might not be born for this, no? But when you hear her talk about her ancestors and her own family and her own upbringing, you could tell that a part of why she's doing this is for the purpose of representation. She put herself through this to make sure that other people could see that, listen, this is possible. And when we see it in our lifetime, we see it as possible and amazing, and we moved by it emotionally and stuff. But there's some little child who will just see this as normal. It's just normal for a black, because the world starts when you reach, when you're born, now when the world starts. And not just born, when you're conscious. When you're 3 years old, or you're conscious of what's going on, that when the world starts to you, and your first memory. So to that generation of children, it will just be normal, like a black woman on the Supreme Court. Hey, that's a normal thing. And that is kind of what we want, so that people have something to aspire towards. So I'll leave it all about that. That's my thing for today. The recognition and that idea of reinforcement and rewarding good behaviors, rewarding achievement. All the topics in this episode end up lining up where that is concerned. And I'm going to go completely off topic to play the last song before we get out of here. Just because I like it again. So I play for a panorama night, right? This week and next week we're gonna touch a few Kitchener. But I want to play another Kitchener for you that was, if I remember right, this might be the first Kitchener song that I had learned the lyrics of. And I like it a lot, and I hope you like it too. I ain't telling you, if you know Kaiso, you know it. But if you don't know Kaiso, you know it now.
A tourist dame, I met her the night she came. Well, she curiously asking about my country. She said, I heard about Bacchanal and the Trinidad Carnival. So I come to jump in the fun, and I want you to tell me how it's done.
I tell you, come in on Juve morning, find yourself in a band. Watch the way how the natives move and hug up tight with a man. Sing along with the tunes they're playing, and now and again you're shouting, play Mass Bacchanal, Miss Tourist, that is Carnival. The following day, we went to Maracas Bay.
Every step we walk, she started with this Juve talk. She said, kids, from what I've been told, Carnival is out of this world. Just the thought is worrying my brain. Well, let me hear that lesson again. I said,
come in on Juve morning, find yourself in a band.
watch the way how the natives moving,
Hug up tight with a man.
sing along with the tunes they're playing.
And now and again
you shouting, play Mass Bacchanal, Miss Tourist, that is Carnival. Juve morn, you swear that is here she born. The hole in hand, jumping in a Juve band. When the rhythm hot up the pace, she said play Mass, and shaking she waist.
Yes.
Kitch will you phone Hotel Normandy
And tell them don't leave no breakfast for me.
I said come in on Juve morning, find yourself in a band. Watch the way how the native moving, hug up tight with a man. Sing along with the tunes they're playing, and now and again you shouting, play Mass Bacchanal, Miss Tourist, that is Carnival. She turn and say, Kitch, and now feel to break away. She said, come on, man, and drag me in front the band. Mama, when we reach Independence Square, she kick and she raise, she dress in the air.
Rolling Bacchanal, Bacchanal, I am the queen of the carnival.
I said,
Come in on Juve morning.
find yourself in a band. Watch the way how the native moving, hug up tight with a man. Sing along with the tunes they're playing.
And now and again you're shouting, play Mass Bacchanal, Miss Tourist, that is Carnival. I will talk to you all next week. Enjoy. I ain't seen only before Easter. Enjoy the Easter weekend. Everybody be safe. Have a great time. You know what I mean? Enjoy. This is relaxed time for all of you who churchful and so on. Like people here, I see palms done reach home already. They say it's Palm Sunday. But enjoy all the weekend and stay safe. I will talk to all you next week. Bye. As a matter of fact, next week Tuesday is a holiday. Should I take a week off? I feel like I need a rest too. What was the situation? Carnival? Not Carnival. Easter Tuesday is a holiday. We go decide, right?